All right, so for the last video in the series, we got Scrivven. Scrivven, this one is for you. This is our half-elf School of Divination Wizard, level 3. So we're going to kind of go through the class features and all of that, kind of summarize your character as a whole, and talk about what things you can and can't do. As a wizard, you're going to have a ton of spell slots, so we're not going to go through every single spell. So I would just say take a moment before a game session, review the spells that you have, and kind of refresh your memory, get it back to top of mind. So when we play, it's, you're ready to go. So let's learn about Scrivven. Let's get started. So here we go. In Roll20, I made your token really big here just for this demonstration purposes. But if you right click on your token, you're going to have open character and multi-sided. All this other stuff you won't have, but you'll have those two. If you click open character, or if you hold down Alt on your keyboard and double click, you're going to open up your character sheet. And that's the easiest way to do it. Instead of having to come over here and use the menu system to go into the journal. And we'll make this full screen there to just maximize our thing here, right? So here's your character sheet. So let's learn about Scrivven. Yeah, so currently you don't have any tool proficiencies or custom skills or anything like that. And if that's something you're looking into getting into, we can definitely train you up on some things. It's going to take several weeks of downtime, probably some gold, so on and so forth. But if you want to get proficient in certain tools or skills, we can go down that road. Right now you don't have any, and I like to think, as the class factotum, right, or our school wizard, our class wizard, or yeah, I guess class wizard. You were so focused on learning the arcane. You didn't learn any skills like thief skills or herbalism or other things. You were just truly focused on the arcane and grasping the knowledge behind learning how to manipulate the weave, if you will. All right, but you did learn several languages. You got Elvish and Common just from growing up, and then somehow you've also learned Draconic, Dwarvish, Infernal, which is a very strange language for you to have known. Although I guess it does make sense. I think you learned that one in your pact, which we'll get into. Goblin as well. As far as weapons are concerned, you have no proficiency in armor whatsoever, so you can't wear armor or shields. You can't have a shield either. But for weapons, you're very limited too. Again, this kind of plays into the you've been focused so much in the arcane, and you haven't really delved into true weapon training and all that other stuff. Totally very thematic for your character. But you can use the dart, the dagger, the crossbow, or light crossbow as well, long sword, quarterstaff, short bow, short sword, and sling. So you got quite a bit, but not like, you're not like the melee guy. You're not like skilled in weaponry, right? You're gonna hang in the back and cast your spells. All right. Other than that, we'll kind of get into the things that make you with your features and traits. And I want you to pay attention to the skills, the resources over here. I'm probably going to make a video on just managing your inventory and resources. But for now, the short rest and long rest button will reset your resources dependent upon whether or not they reset on a short rest or long rest. Like, you're not going to, every time you take a long rest doesn't mean you get a potion of healing, right? So that's just an inventory management thing. But your arcane recovery, if you were to reduce that down to 0 and then hit long rest, that would automatically come back to a 1 when you hit the long rest. So it's just kind of like a shortcut of managing all your resources. These two buttons, really, really useful. Very new to Roll20, but also very, very helpful. All right, and then all the other skills and stuff that we talk about and inventory, it's all going to be in your resources here. So you're going to kind of manage all of this together. And as far as, do we have day of the week? Oh, we got days since last kill here. We're going to get into that. Well, let's just get into it. So for those that don't know, Scrivven died in one of our first sessions. Like, true character death. And as a first time player of playing D&D, I thought that might be a little harsh. It wasn't literally 4 goblins and or 5 players. It was just a lot of inexperience, and ultimately Scrivven made the ultimate sacrifice. So instead of just killing him outright, kind of got some inspiration from Legend of the Seeker, if anybody has seen that show, kind of where this came from. But so basically he went down to hell. He met Asmodeus himself, and basically through a lot of RPing, he made a deal with the devil, right? He made a deal with Asmodeus, almost as though he's a warlock. For those that are in the know of D&D, right? He's almost like a half warlock, but he's not taking any levels in warlock. But in this, he made this deal, and Asmodeus said, "I'll let you live. I'll bring you back to life and to land the material plane, but you are my servant, right? And you must send me at least 1 soul per week in my name." And he has this whole mechanic that we're going to get into that has him rip the souls out, and it turns into a specter. The specter works for him. He's in his service until the next day at dawn, at which point the soul goes down to Asmodeus. As long as he does that once every 7 days, he's good. If he doesn't do that in 7 days, he outright dies right there on the spot, and sacrifices his soul to Asmodeus instead. So that's it's going to be kind of unique when we get into, villages and towns, and they're in there doing some downtime for long periods of time. He might have to find some ways to get somebody, and the sacrifice has to be a humanoid, and they must have a soul, and the kill must be within a minute, right? Presumably because the soul's still kind of around to be trapped into service. So all of that will start down here at the bottom. You have the Asmodeus pack, which basically says that. And the more souls you send, the more gifts Asmodeus will bestow upon you and make you stronger, okay? So right now at 0 souls, you got the ability to rip a soul out of a body and put it as a specter in your service, right? And that was called the Accursed Specter, which is this down here. So once per long rest, or short rest rather, you can curse the soul of a humanoid that your party has killed within the last minute, temporarily binding it into your service. When you slay the humanoid, you can cause its spirit to rise from its corpse as a specter. When the specter appears, it gains temporary hit points equal to half of your level. Roll initiative for the specter, has its own turn, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's the specter. And it has a bonus to its attack, which is intelligence modifier. So the more intelligent you are when you do this, the more efficient your specter is going to be. And you can't do this until you take another short rest. So it's per short rest that you can do the Accursed Specter. And the more souls you get, the more stronger you're going to be. You're currently at 5 souls. You just unlocked that in the last session. So you're now able to cast Darkness centered on yourself without using a spell slot. And once per long rest, you can summon a Hellhound for 10 minutes, and it will be very similar to your Cursed Specter. Incidentally, you only can have 1 Cursed Specter in service at a time, and I didn't put that in the verbiage, but maybe I'll update that and do that for you. So if you get a Specter, short rest, another Specter, short rest, another Specter, you're only going to be able to have 1, right? So no stacking them up. All right. So that's kind of the Asmodeus, the dark part. And anytime you're using any of your dark powers, or anytime the dark powers are active, you're going to go onto your token, choose multi-sided, click choose side, and then flip the coin, right? And then when you do that, you're going to have this artwork on your token, which is kind of cool. Very thematic. Your eyes become dark. You have like the Witcher veins kind of coming out, right? So your physical appearance does change, which could have some role-playing implications during, peaceful times in cities and stuff. So, if you hit random side, it's just gonna roll and choose one at random. So might have to do this a couple of times before you get it. So just choose multi-sided, choose side, and then you can literally just choose whichever side you want. Okay. All right. So moving up to the more normal stuff, the less homebrewed stuff, right? Ritual casting. Because you're a wizard, certain spells have the ritual feature enabled on it, and you can cast them as a ritual without using a spell slot. which is really kind of nice. And in our game, because you guys are first time players, we're not tracking any material components or anything like that. So don't worry about having the material components. But for ritual casting, if you look at your spell list by coming over here to spells, and you see anything with the R next to it, that you can be cast as a ritual. You can't cast any spell as a ritual. It has to have that R next to it. Like if we look at detect magic, oh, I didn't mean to cast it. It says, it doesn't say it in the description, but in the book it does. This can be cast as a ritual, and you know that because of the R next to it. So you can cast detect magic. It takes an extra 10 minutes to do it. And you can concentrate for up to 10 minutes where you're detecting magic, and anything of magical value within 30 feet of you basically gives off an aura, and the aura tells you what school of magic it came from. That's kind of like the gist of the detect magic spell, but ultimately look for that R by it. And incidentally, C means concentration. V, S, and M is verbal, somatic, or material. So if you can't speak, you can't cast any of these spells that require a verbal. And you'll see Misty Step is just verbal, right? Which is kind of nice. But again, if you're using it as a ritual, you don't need to spend the spell slot. You just cast it. It just takes an extra 10 minutes to do so. All right, so moving down the list here, we got Arcane Recovery. As a wizard, when you take your short rest, once per day you can do this, you can restore spell slots equal to half your level, rounded up, which is unusual for D&D. It's usually rounded down, but in this case it's rounded up. So as a level 3, you can, divided by 2, round up, you can recover 2 spell slots. So that's 2 first level spells or 1 second level spell. Okay, and as you level up, the more spell slots you can recover. Makes you a little, you're casting as it's your main focus. You get to do it more often as a full caster, which is really kind of a nice touch. Fey Ancestry, you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed. So if somebody's trying to charm you, or there's some, whether it's a magical spell or a skill or anything like that, you're resistant to it. So you can get advantage on the saving throw to avoid being charmed, which is really important. And you can't be put to sleep by any spell, okay? Or any magic, rather. So if there was a potion of sleepiness, magical potion, you could drink it and it just would taste gross, probably. I don't know what that tastes like, but so keep that in mind when we get to those situations, that if that comes up, you have advantage or you can't be put to sleep, because you don't even sleep in real life. With the trance thing, you only need 4 hours of going in this like dreamlike trance, okay, and then you get the benefits of a full rest, unlike other humanoids needing 8 hours of sleep. Okay. Dark vision is pretty self-explanatory. We've been using it, but there is some gotchas in there that we don't really remember a lot of times when we're playing this. But you see, in natural darkness, it's like dim light. Now, dim light, you only can see in shades of gray, and you have disadvantage on perception checks that rely on sight. It's because it's considered lightly obscured. Okay. And then if it was naturally dim light, you would see that as though it was bright light. So you could see just fine in dim light. Okay. So that's dark vision. You got that up to 60 feet. Shelter of the Faithful. Basically, anybody that is a follower of your religion is going to help you out, is basically what it's saying. If there's a chapel or a church or anything like that that you can go to for shelter and aid, and they will willingly aid you and your friends, okay? Or possibly your friends, depends on the situation, but definitely for you. And you can ask for assistance as long as they don't put themselves in danger, basically. All right, Divination Savant. So as a Divination Wizard, so typically when you run into other spell books that are out there or scrolls or anything like that, you can copy those into your spell book, so you can cast them whenever you want, as long as you have it prepared, right? The cost to do that is typically 2 hours of time. You can't do this during a short rest, and it costs 50 gold in materials, right? Whether that's the ink to transcribe it into your book, or it's the materials to practice casting it a few times before you get it down, whatever, it's going to cost you 50 gold. But if that spell is a divination spell, it's half that. So you can do it in a short rest because it's only an hour, and 25 gold worth of materials, as long as during your short rest you have access to those materials. I guess that's the only time I'm going to say you're going to need those materials. Although if you're in a village or a town or something like that, there'll probably be a shop that you can probably go to and find that, so you don't have to go questing looking for that one pearl or whatever you need. Okay. So it's halved, basically, cost and time, if it's divination. And then portent, you've used this a couple of times, so you probably get it, but I think it's at when you finish a long rest, you roll 2 d20s and you save them. And before a roll happens, it is before, not after the roll. So it's not like, oh, I rolled crap, let me use my portent to do that. No, it's before the roll is made. I want to make that roll this. It's kind of like you're seeing into the future and you already know what that roll is going to become, right? So right now you're tracking this with the resources here. You got a 20 and a 1 on this. So you got a critical success and a critical failure that you can impose on any roll, whether that's you, one of the rolls that the DM has to make, or enemies that you're fighting, or your friends that are rolling. And it doesn't matter if it's an ability check, an attack roll, I don't think anyway. Any attack roll, saving throw, or ability check. So yeah, anytime you're rolling a d20, you can replace it with any one of those digits. And when you do, just change it to a 0 so you know you used it. And then again, at the end of your long rest, you can re-roll and put those 2 numbers in there, important 1, important 2. That's it. Now for the resources, just kind of going through this, the arcane recovery, if you do use that to restore hit points equal to half your level, just drop that down to a 0 when you take your short rest. So when you take your long rest, they'll come back up. Potion of healing, if you use it, drop it down. If you get another one, you can just increase it here. You got your portents. Days since last kill. That's really days since last soul sent to Asmodeus. So you're at 0 because you just did one. So if that ever gets to 7, or if it ever gets to 8, because it's once per 7 days, if it ever gets to 8, you're dead. Okay. You have 5 javelins. You've collected 5 souls. The accursed specter you've done once, and again, this resets on a short rest. So if you use the accursed specter, which you just did, that'll be a 0. Darkness, if you use that resets on a long rest. You can use that. Now, again, that's centered on yourself. And then Hellhound, if you use that, drop that down, and that's once per day as well. And then you have another potion of healing here. And I don't know why. Do you have 2 potions of healing in your inventory? Nope, this one was just manually put in there. So we'll delete this one. And then we'll add it back in as a resource. Back in as a resource. I don't know where it went. Oh, I keep clicking it. There we go. Okay. So now this is kind of like into foreshadowing the inventory management stuff, but you click 2 here, then you'll see you have 2 potions of healing. Why isn't it working? Well, I'm gonna fix this, and we'll get to the bottom of that. All right. Yeah, I'm not sure why that's not working. But yeah. Anyway, that is your character, I believe. There's nothing else, right? Oh yeah, I guess we can go over here. The long rest, by the way, will restore all of your spell slots over here. So you have 3 and 0. So if you hit the long rest button, it automatically brings that back up to 4 and 2 or whatever your max is. Okay. Yeah, and here's obviously all of your spells. If you click on the word, you'll cast it. You click on the bubble, you throw it in the chat. And if you click on the eye, you'll expand it so you can read it. And then if you click on the gear, you can do this to change it or whatever. Okay. So that's that. I'm not going to go through all your spells. I'm going to put that on you to do. All right. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. and not too long. Where are we at? Just under 20 minutes. That's what I was trying to go for. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next session.